Hello, welcome back to my Tips on Breathing series. This is part 3, where I talk about how to correct an inverted breathing pattern. An inverted breathing pattern is a name for a pattern of breathing disorder that I identified clinically many years ago when I had hair on my head. And so I gave it that name because I had not seen anything specifically describing it when I looked into the literature at that time, probably in the late 80s. So what I'd like to do is describe what an inverted breathing pattern is, but since our last blog was on anxiety and breathing and anxiety and how to use breathing to help with anxiety, I would like to point out that most of the people that I see who have problems with anxiety have what I will now demonstrate to you as an inverted breathing pattern. Remember our general rule, the first 2/3 of the breath should come from the belly, because as the diaphragm drops down, the organs have to have somewhere to go, or you can't create a negative pressure in the thorax. If you don't have enough relaxation or flexibility in the abdominal wall, then the diaphragm meets resistance, and that often triggers the accessory respiratory muscles to come online and try to increase how much breath you can get in by stretching your spine lengthwise. When we breathe, the rib cage has to expand in 3 planes. As we inhale, we get a little taller, so the spine gets longer. Our ribs, or the dimension of our rib cage from front to back, increases. So if you put a point on your back and a point on your sternum, those 2 points move away from each other. And then in the back, our ribs open laterally. So we're getting wider laterally because your ribs take the shape of a bucket handle. So as you inhale, the bucket handle lifts up, which makes the rib cage wider. So there's 3 planes that we expand in to create the negative pressure for optimal breathing. When I'm assessing a person's breathing, I'm looking at a couple of things, especially if anxiety is involved. One is, how many breaths do they take a second? Normal in physiological texts, such as Guyton's textbook of physiology, is 12 to 16. But remember, these statistics of normal are based on large populations of people, often of which might be normal relative to the sick people, but they're not really normal as an ideal. My experience is that people that follow the advice in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, and the last 4 doctors you'll ever need, How to Get Healthy Now, and practice some inner work and some breathing work, and have a harmonized exercise program, typically within 2 to 3 months of proper exercise, diet, and lifestyle, will have a resting breathing rate of 6 to 10. I think 6 to 10 is an ideal breathing rate for a person at rest. And when we're at a 6 to 10 breathing rate, we bring ourselves into a place where we have harmony in our biological oscillators. Your solar plexus controls your abdominal organs, and peristalsis. We have a wave of peristalsis about every 6 seconds, 6 to 10 seconds, depending on which book you read. So for example, there's one example of harmonizing biological oscillators. If our breathing rate is 6 to 10, and we have a wave of peristalsis every 6 to 10 seconds, and as we calm, our brain waves will come into harmony with those 2 rates, and our heart rate will come down and will balance out. Typically, if you take the number of heartbeats in 1 minute and divide it by the number of breaths in 1 minute, ideally, if you're in harmony, you'll get a whole number. So 60 heartbeats a minute divided by 12 breaths is 5. But if you get 60 heartbeats in a minute and 13 breaths, then you're going to get a fractionated number, which is usually an indication of some disharmony in the system. And you can look at the work of HeartMath, the HeartMath Foundation. There's a book titled HeartMath, and they have a lot more information available for you, and some very good technology such as the EM wave technology and things you can use on your computer to help bring yourself into a more balanced and harmonized state. My zone exercises in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, are designed to harmonize the biological oscillators, which are the brain, the heart, and the solar plexus, or the organs of the gut. Those three systems need to work in harmony in order for you to have the best health, the best mental, emotional stability, and the best vitality. Now, when people have anxiety or unresolved trauma, or if they get caught into sort of the modern bodybuilding, body-oriented mindset, and they get into this situation where women, for example, don't want to let their belly come out, especially when they're premenstrual, and their uterus begins to swell as part of the menstrual process, they tend to pull their guts in, which disrupts the breathing cycle. People that are into bodybuilding, or young men that think that women are attracted to their rock-hard abs, or who have a state of fear around other men that may be more powerful than them, often hold their abs tight all the time. And so what happens is you get the programming over time that develops into an inverted breathing pattern. Also, if someone's had trauma or fear, such as a car accident or any kind of traumatic experience, the body can tighten up so much that the residues of that can leave the person still reacting as though they're in that state of fear or shock. So as I'm testing a person's breathing rate, which I always do without them knowing I'm doing it, or they will change their breathing rate, I'm also watching how their abdomen moves. Sometimes I will touch them, but I usually don't tell them what I'm looking for. So it's hard to look for this on yourself because you're not going to naturally want to fail a test. But a simple way to test to see if you have an inverted breathing pattern is simply take a nice deep breath. And if you have an inverted breathing pattern, instead of your belly coming out, when you inhale, what you get is, as the person inhales, their muscles tighten. And right away you can feel that the accessory respiratory muscles, along with the scalene, start tightening up, and it puts a lot of tension in the neck and shoulders and can lead to a lot of tension headaches, neck tension syndromes, and runoff problems all over the place. So in essence, an inverted breathing pattern means that your abdominal wall function is inverted relative to what is normal. As you inhale, the abdominals should completely relax. As you exhale, there should be tone to help move the waste or the CO2 out of your body. So what we want to do now is look at ways we can retrain the abdominal wall. So I developed a very simple technique clinically many years ago because I found that people needed some sort of a feedback mechanism. So what you can do is take a plastic water bottle. It's better than glass for this because glass is quite heavy and it tips over. A large, like 1.5 liter Evian bottle I found works the best, and you need it to be as tall as you can. This is a little bit short, but it's all I could find here today. Because when you're laying on your back, you want to be able to see it without having to look down. And I show this, by the way, in my Last 4 Doctors Will Ever Need How to Get Healthy Now multimedia ebook, because it's got video clips in it. So I actually show this and other techniques that you can use for a variety of things in that multimedia ebook. So we're going to take that bottle, put it right on our belly button. Now remember, I suggested a taller bottle because you don't want to have to lift your head up to look at the bottle. An Evian 1.5 liter bottle is about that tall. So 2/3, 1/3 rule. Inhale and try to make the bottle go up as high as you can without forcing it before the chest moves. So it looks like this. And only now do I feel the chest wanting to come up. And that would be the full inhalation. And then just relax. Now, there's nothing wrong with, in this retraining period, using a little abdominal drawing in at the end of the breath to push the waist out. But you don't want to get too crazy on that, because if you've got an inverted breathing pattern, you already have an overly excited abdominal wall. So in, tongue on the roof of the mouth, chest starts moving in the last third. Relax, let it come out through the mouth or the nose, and then just a little drawing in, set the bottle down just to make sure the air is out. In, okay, so that is how you begin reprogramming yourself for a proper diaphragmatic breath. And then for those of you that are, for aesthetic reasons, pulling your abdominal wall in, male or female, just know that you're, whatever you're getting out of that, usually you just attract other people to you that are doing the same stuff. So, you know, it's better to be authentically yourself, and you'll attract someone who's attracted to who you really are, not to who you're pretending to be. That's a whole other story in itself. So what we want to do now is, I developed a technique based on what I call the world's greatest weight belt, and I show, I believe, on page 124, I can't remember, but in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, I show you how to use the string for activating the core, which is, now we're going to use the string with the opposite principle in mind. So you take a string. I normally use a kite string, but I didn't have any kite string here this morning, so I had to improvise with some packing string. We're going to tie that string right at the belly button. It doesn't need to be tight, just touching the skin. And it's best if you tie it in a knot, because bows slip. Okay, now if you're a female and you've got wider hips, you might find that when you do the exercise, or just wearing the string, because you're going to want to wear this all day until you reprogram your breathing pattern, it might ride up onto your hips away from the belly button. So all you got to do is just take a little piece of athletic tape or skin tape from the drugstore and tape it so that it doesn't rise up on you. Now what we're going to do is get a runner's watch or any kind of cheap timer for just a few bucks today. You can buy like a Casio runner's watch or something you can set to beep every hour on the hour. And now what we're going to do, we're in the core conditioning concept. Before we move a load, we inhale but draw our belly button off. Now we're going to use the principle of feedback from the string in order to feel and make sure we're letting our belly out. So by wearing the string and inhaling, you want to purposely tighten the string up to get that belly expansion, which is the diaphragm dropping down. And then exhale through the nose or the mouth. So you would do a deep belly breath, and I encourage you to do 12 belly breaths every hour on the hour. In a day, that's quite a number of breaths, but it usually takes somewhere between around 300 to 350 repetitions to build a new motor program, but that's only in situations where you don't have a faulty motor program. It can usually take, and often takes, 3,500 to 5,000 repetitions of training with awareness to rebuild a motor program. So it can take, anywhere from a week to a month with this technique. So again, you would wear this under your shirt, and every time your watch beeps, it's your reminder to do 12 nice centering belly breaths into the string. Tighten the string up. Only let the chest move in the last 1/3. And then exhale. Always keeping the tongue on the roof of the mouth behind the front teeth. Now that simple technique I've used to help people with all sorts of problems, and an inverted breathing pattern is usually tied to all sorts of chronic musculoskeletal problems, from head problems to neck problems to jaw problems to headaches to visual problems, and a long, long list of other things. Even things like ringing in the ears, which is often thought to be tinnitus but is part of a breathing pattern disorder, biochemical imbalances. The list is long. There's many good books on breathing out there that go into all this. And then there was one last thing I wanted to share with you before I forget, and that is, yes, in a previous blog, I spoke to you about the importance of stretching the flexor chain, keeping your hip flexors, excuse me, your abdominal wall stretched out, your pec major, your pec minor, keeping your rib cage loose. And also you want to keep your lats loose too, because if those muscles get tight, they make it hard for your body to inhale effectively, and it also leads to blockage of emotion in the body. So we've covered a fair bit today. I've reminded you about the 2/3, 1/3 process or rule for breathing. I taught you how to use a water bottle, which I also share in The Last 4 Doctors Will Ever Need How to Get Healthy Now, along with much more that you might find interesting. And I've shared with you the importance of keeping your body flexible. And all these techniques I've been sharing in this series can all be used together to help you at different times for different needs. And I shared that it's going to take somewhere, in most cases, between a couple of weeks and a couple of months, depending on how long you've had an inverted breathing pattern, which means you tighten your abdominals when you breathe in instead of relaxing them. And I shared that that is a common thing you find in people who have anxiety. So thanks for joining me today. And in our next video, I will share, let me tell you what's coming up here on The Price is Right with Paul Chek. Breathing for increased energy and mental clarity, a nice simple technique that's in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, called piston breathing. And then we'll finish the series with breathing and spine stability, and I'll show you another technique right out of How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to go to our website. If you like these little tips I'm sharing, there's a lot more in our Holistic Lifestyle Coach Level 1 program, which you can take online or online with an instructor. And there's a lot in my Chek Exercise Coach program, which teaches you the science of designing exercise programs and movement and core stability and structural stability and strength and power development and lots of very, very important things. And that course can be understood by most people that are interested not only in exercise for professional reasons, but who just want to use exercise more scientifically. Hope you enjoyed the session today. Look forward to sharing more with you soon. I am Paul Chek. See you then.